All right, what's up, people? My name is Mike Smith, man. I'm a mental health professional in the state of Washington. Originally from Los Angeles, random streets. Currently have a master's degree in forensic psychology. Working on my doctorate in marriage and family therapy. Business development, organizational development is what I've done throughout the state for inpatient treatment facilities for folks with co-occurring disorders, serious mental illness, substance use disorders, personality disorders. I've kind of worked with it all: schizoaffective, schizophrenia, bipolar with psychotic features, borderline personality disorder, attachment styles. You kind of name it, I've kind of dealt with it. I guess my scope, my lens, the one I like working with the most is anxiety, panic attack, anxious distress, depression. That's kind of the stuff I work with most as of now. Throughout my career of 12, 13 years, I've seen a lot of schizophrenia, serious mental illness, as well as your garden variety mental health challenges. So this video, I'm gonna just kind of make videos throughout this channel about different points, different things, different topics. If you have questions, just leave them in the chat. But this one's about fearful, avoidant attachment styles. So I got some notes here. A fearful, avoidant attachment style, also known as disorganized or anxious avoidant, is one of the less common attachment styles that individuals can develop from their early relationships. This attachment style can significantly influence how a person navigates their adult relationships. Here are some key characteristics and behaviors that someone with a fearful, avoidant attachment style might bring into a relationship, a romantic relationship. Number one, mixed desires and for intimacy and independence. Individuals with a fearful, avoidant attachment style crave emotional closeness and intimacy, but are also deeply afraid of being hurt, rejected, or engulfed by the relationship. This leads to a push-pull dynamic where they might, oscillate between seeking closeness and then pushing their partner away. Some of that "I love you but hate you" type of thing. You know, those red flags. One thing I want to say, man, is you cannot love red flags out of people. If you notice red flags, it is what it is. Be thankful that the individual is showing you, who they are. When people show you who they are, they've shown up. Their most vulnerable self, their most toxic self has shown up. The body tells on the mind. So always remember that when people expose who they are, that doesn't mean they're a bad person. They just might not be for you in a relationship. Some people have this type of attachment style, and somebody else might have it as well. Or find one that works with that style. This is not saying this person is so dysfunctional that they can't have love or can't be loved, or, but how toxic is your relationship? Are you guys toxic? Trauma bonding, which is creating a toxic relationship based on individuals' trauma, or what? So understanding the love language can kind of work through this, can get you through this cycle of this push-pull type of relationship. Point two, difficulty trusting. Due to past traumas and inconsistent caregiving experiences or relationships, they may have deep-seated mistrust of others and fear that those who they become close to will ultimately let them down or abandon them. This is true for people who've been abandoned as a child, whose parents abandoned them, gave them up for adoption, that type of thing, foster homes. You experience issues like that. Three is high sensitivity to threats. They're often hypervigilant for signs of potential betrayal or abandonment, and may misinterpret their partner's actions as threatening or leading to overreactions of conflict. Everything looks like you're cheating, right? There's no trust there in the relationship, the other partner. And some partners are okay with constantly proving that, well, hey, I was on the phone with my friend, or I was just texting my friend. Here, see, showing the relationship. Hi, daddy, I was at the grocery store, Some people, when they explain themselves, well, that's because of their trauma, of how they grew up. They had to explain themselves to their parents, right? That would be a good fit for a person who has emotional distrust. That person's doing everything that they need to do already because of their trauma to make sure the other person understands that they weren't cheating on them or whatever. They might have had that toxic trauma from another relationship, right? And so now those two fit. They're trauma bonding, but in a good way, right? You can trauma bond in a good way. You don't have to trauma bond in a toxic manner, right? The unfortunate part is we've all had this trauma, some sort of trauma, right? And so when dealing with these traumas, there is a fit of trauma that fits the other trauma. And that's the point. Everybody's dysfunction is not a dysfunction for somebody else. Like one man's trash is another man's treasure. One man's trauma is another woman's treasure. They just fit. They go together, right? Emotional volatility. The internal conflict between desiring closeness and fearing intimacy can result in emotional unpredictability. They might experience intense emotions and mood swings within the relationships, making it challenging for partners to understand and respond to their emotional state. Some people stonewall, right? They shut down, they stonewall, right? That's a swing, a mood, right? First, they're all into it. Then they feel a little rejection. Then they just, they quiet. They got to process what's going on. And if they're doing the work, then they realize that that's a trigger. And they're trying not to respond with an automatic negative thought or automatic response mechanism that's negativity, that feeds negativity into the relationship, which then will cause the relationship to be volatile, right? They start arguing and going through these cycles, right? The fearful avoidant struggles with communication. Fearful avoidant individuals may find it hard to communicate their needs and feelings effectively, especially when they feel vulnerable, right? This can lead to misunderstandings and unmet needs within the relationship. So communication is key, right? Being able to talk. Some people can't talk. You bring up a situation and try not to let it become unresolved, right? Some people love to communicate. You have the pursuer. Then you have the distancer, the person who starts screaming and yelling and can't concentrate, can't focus on the conversation, can't have the conversation because of, I would say, the anxious distress or the anxiety that they have, the racing thoughts. They can't really untangle what's being said at the time because their face is red and their ears are hot and they, Black people, our face don't really get red. I'm just that light-skinned kind. So I might a little bit, it's that Boricua in me a little bit, right? But they may experience that traumatic anxiety and they can't really function and communicate in the conversation. And then the conversation starts to break down. The relationship starts to break down. These conversations lead to early warning signs and things breaking down in the person's mind who may have anxiety, right? So you have anxiety and you have these issues. You have multiple issues going on with all of us. Unfortunately, this world has prepared us to be dysfunctional. Right. But you got to do the work. We got to do the work. We all can do the work. So don't be scared to do the work. Do the work. And this can happen. Right. We can make it through this. Point 7. Conflicted views on the relationship. They might simultaneously long for a deep connection while also perceiving the relationship as something dangerous or painful, leading to ambivalence about the relationship value and future. This person gives up on the relationship all the time because they're like, man, I want this love. But as soon as they see something hard come up or something that makes them vulnerable, they gone. They leave. They done. They can't take it. They don't want this relationship. And they devalue the other person. They devalue the relationship and the future of the relationship. Issues with boundaries. Setting and maintaining healthy boundaries can be challenging for those with a fearful, avoidant attachment style. These might allow boundaries to be crossed out of fear of losing a relationship or set rigid boundaries that prevent true intimacy. I'm not dealing with you having anxiety, and that's that. They don't, they want it to not work because they don't want to be vulnerable, right? The other thing is they might allow their boundaries to be crossed because they want that intimacy. They want that love so bad. They'll allow their boundaries to be crossed and to kind of be disrespected in a way because they do crave that love. They do want that love, but they don't know how to have it. So they'll let their boundaries be crossed. And then once their boundaries are crossed enough, then boom, they shut it down. They shut it down, and then they come back and they allow it to happen over and over again. That's the in and out part. Tendencies towards self-protection. In an effort to protect themselves, the perceived threats, they may employ defense mechanisms such as withdrawing, shutting down emotionally, or engaging in controlling behaviors. I just talked about this. Sabotaging behavior. Sometimes fearful, avoidant individuals may unconsciously sabotage their relationships as a way of avoiding getting too close because the closeness is associated with the potential for pain and loss. Self-sabotage. 10. Intense relationships. Relationships can be highly passionate and intense due to the isolation between closeness and distance. Closeness and distance, creating a roller coaster of emotional highs and lows. Despite these challenges, it's important to note that individuals with fearful, avoidant attachment style are often capable of deep love and connection. With awareness and effort, they can work towards developing more secure attachments and healthy relationship dynamics. Therapy and personal growth work can be particularly helpful in addressing these fears and behaviors associated with this attachment style. And with that, I want to say, man, I hope everybody has a beautiful week. Make sure that you do the work. Take care of your self-care. Do some meditation, do some grounding, do some walking, go fishing, work on your car. Do something that you feel gives you the mental, experiential, self-care and love that you need to continue to be productive and operate in an appropriate manner with your loved ones and your relationships. And with that, I just want to say, man, peace and blessings to everybody that's listening to this message.